over the last 10 years, we've had an economic growth rate for the national economy of less than 2%. This is not a problem. This is a national crisis. And I want to start out by seeing what happened with natural gas. You know, if you came here in 2008 and testified on natural gas, and members of the committee asked, what can we do about the shortage of natural gas? Should we lease more land? Shall we try new kinds of innovation? All the government witnesses would have said, it doesn't matter what we do. The path you see there in blue, if you look at the vertical axis, that's trillion cubic feet per year. And in 2008, we all believed that we were going to have massive imports of natural gas. But in fact, because of the advances of hydraulic fracturing, because it occurred on private land, because there was no NEPA review, because ideas could move quickly from one province to another, we rapidly increased our gas supplies. These are very important lessons here. It's not just the technology, it was the whole process. Next slide. The next slide is, I think, shows us very clearly why the real debate is not whether we're going to export too much natural gas, but whether we may lose out from a highly competitive market and export too little. The vertical axis shows you billion cubic feet per day. And you see that narrow blue line that goes across there? That's the most likely world demand for LNG in the world market between 2020 and 2025. It's a very competitive market. All these projects we have going forward are of should not be of much concern. We don't even need a DOE export process. The capital markets themselves are going to determine who gets these projects. And the real issue for our country is how do we contain the political and the regulatory risk. I can tell you today there is no Canadian pipeline company that will consider building a line across the U.S. border. The experience of Keystone has shifted long-term expectations. This is not a friendly place to do business. Next slide. This shows you the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission timelines for approving projects. Once again, as you can see, it can take up to get the final project up to 9 years. I think we are much too preoccupied with exporting two more. The more likely outcome is that we're going to go slowly, very measured, and we may miss out on some markets. Next slide, please. If you just take the projects, which are, you see the vertical axis here is billion cubic feet per day, and these are the projects which have contracts. Actually, these are the projects that are most likely to get permission to proceed. And as you can see, it's very modest, somewhere between 5, 6, maybe 7 billion cubic feet a day. We don't have a process that we should not be worried about exporting too much. That is not our problem. We have to learn that we have to work on how we can be competitive to get a big part of this market. Next slide. I know we talked about coal today. One of the things that I'd like to point out is that how you get economic value is that you sell something for more than it costs. And it is true that if we were to expand, you see in the middle there, this curve shows you what we call the supply curve or merit order curve, the relatively cost of producing coal and delivering it to Asian markets. And the U.S. can expand, for example, in the Powder River Basin, take a lot of that value, and we will, as Mr. Golden pointed out, help to lower the price. But that lowering the price will be very small. And the implications of that lower price will not be substantial on total coal use worldwide. And then finally, the last slide. This is, one sort of presentation of what we call the North American petroleum renaissance. And the vertical axis there shows you both our imports and then our imports when we look at it as a North American entity, U.S. and Canada together, as a percent of GNP. If we can contain our regulatory and political risk, if we can allow a relatively, stable set of projects to go forward that the market wants us to do, by 2019, 2020, total non-Canadian, waterborne imports into the United States are going to be virtually insignificant. As you can see, it will probably be well less than 2/10, 3/10 of GMP. And it's for that reason that we need to focus on this huge opportunity of high-value projects which are for us. We have a large number of high-value projects. For some reason, we can't get permission to proceed.